Redditors who knew men caught on to catch a predator before the show, what were they like? Oh, I can actually answer this one. He legit was always trying to sleep with men that were way too young for him, albeit just barely legal, and we made jokes all the time to him about how he was going to wind up on that show. We literally called him Herbert. It was the opposite of a, he was the last person I would suspect, situation. I didn't know the person directly, but I worked at a company that had an employee caught on the show. This was particularly problematic, as the company was Nickelodeon Animation. Everyone who knew the guy was actually pretty shocked. It was particularly rough for his girlfriend at the time, as she also worked at the studio, so there was no hiding from it. For their part, Nickelodeon instituted rigorous background checks for every new employee after the incident, with zero tolerance for any misdeeds involving children. Those background checks are what keeps this lore alive though, as the process if much more intensive than any other studio. I knew the cop from, I think Florida, Alabama that was arrested on the show. He had guns and rope in his vehicle when he went to meet the girl. Super creepy stuff. When he was a sheriff's deputy in Florida, he would come into my job frequently. So, I didn't know him on a personal level, but I did talk to him on a regular basis. He was a really nice, respectful guy. He seemed to be a good cop too. I was shocked when I saw the episode. You never really know what goes on in someone's bedroom. Here is part of the episode. I went to school with Rob Klein. From what I can remember of him was that he was quiet and kept to himself. He never did anything to label himself a creep. His excuse for showing up has to be one of the worst. Rob said he showed up to let the 13-year-old girl know he wasn't going to be able to hang out after making the 2-hour drive there. He also throws his brother under the bus for the child porn that is on his computer. Yes, Matty Nash. He was creepy and kept trying to get me to go to Burning Man. When I told him I didn't think that was a good idea because I had a 10-year-old kid at the time, he said I should bring my kid. Now I don't think he was interested in my kid at all, but I did tell him I thought that would be super creepy to bring a kid to Burning Man with a bunch of people on This was in 2001. He came over to my house under the guise of talking business and then put the moves on me. I turned him down and sent him home to his wife. Ah, stunning. Remember the fine young lad who got caught not once, but twice? Went to my high school. Had a class or two with him. I was one dude's raw in university. He was a seriously weird dude, but was relatively friendly, came out to all of the campus events, and was not suspected of being a predator at all by any of us in the dorms back in those days. He was busted on TCAP about 2-3 years after I graduated, so probably sometime 2003, 2005. I fortunately don't know any predators, but I did work with a young woman who had worked on the show. She did the post-production voiceovers for the catfishing texts between the detectives and the predators. She was the voice of the non-existent teen girl. Like the, "Oh, I don't know much about sex, I'm only 13 lol," stuff. Apparently she was a production assistant or intern at the production office, and one of the producers was like, "We need somebody with a young-sounding voice, you say something," and she did, and he was like, "Perfect. Come with me," and she recorded all the dialogue. Right after she told a bunch of us at work. This was a couple years later at a different job. I went home that night and watched an episode and could tell it absolutely was her voice. Hilarious. Rapey, extremely rapey. Was someone from my hometown in NY. Went to school with their younger sister. After he graduated high school, he did everything he could to hang out with much younger kids. Always wanted to buy booze for us or roll up a joint and smoke us out in his van. Never touched me, but there were rumors of him molesting a 12-year-old in sleepaway camp. I think this show had more to do with the demise of Yahoo Messenger than anything else. I didn't know the guy before the show, but after. Over a decade ago, I was on a dating website and was talking to a guy that claimed to be a doctor. I thought it was very unusual that this doctor had so much free time throughout the day to text me so frequently. Was begging me to meet up with him and telling me he'd shower me with all these gifts. I was getting suspicious of the guy and reverse searched his phone number. I found out he gave me a fake name, and after getting his real name, I saw all the articles online and saw the guy was on TCAP. I couldn't believe what I was seeing and asked him to send me a selfie. Sure enough, it was definitely him. I ghosted him and blocked his number. Just really glad I never met up with him. Be careful out there, ladies. Never heard of this show, so I googled it. Why did To Catch a Predator get cancelled? Cancellation. The show was cancelled in 2008, in part because Louis Conrad, an assistant district attorney in Rockwall County, Texas, Shot himself after he was caught talking to and exchanging pictures with a perverted justice volunteer posing as a 13-year-old boy. Ha 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 wow WTF. Weren't on to catch a predator, but my ex-stepdad was a pedophile. Before he went to jail for his third time, my mom didn't know when she married him, we would see his family a lot. His brother was always very nice and liked having us over. They would sometimes get weird with each other and his brother would make comments about my body every now and then. After my ex-stepdad went to jail, his brother was caught on an online chat sting. He somehow got my contact info when I was an adult and thought it was appropriate to tell me he was attracted to me when I was 12. Weirdly, they both didn't like each other being alone with young girls and at least once referred to the other one as a pedophile. I was too young to really understand it back then. I don't know anyone from the show, but I was very close to my father, who is a predator. Middle-aged geeky dude. Had 2 daughters. I was 18. My sibling 20 at the time of arrest. Bit socially awkward but known as a really kind guy. Always generous with his time. Worked at a community center helping underprivileged kids learn how to use computers. Yeah, turns out he was molesting at least 2 girls from their 4 and 8, and hosting a child porn ring from the center's server. No one suspected it. He loved kids, but that's cause he had to, right? He'd fix everyone's computers for free and help them get into work. Really great upstanding citizen. He got 16 years and everyone else got a lifetime of trust issues and trauma. Ever knew one of them, but a guy who sat behind me in high school Spanish ended up being locked up for making child porn. He was a weird guy. Like, almost normal but just real awkward socially. I met the ex-wife of a police officer that was on to catch a predator a few years ago. We were both prospective jurors for a sex crime. She was dismissed because of her relationship to the law enforcement profession and because her ex-husband was involved in a sex crime. She had to discuss the whole story to the entire court during voir dire. He was never on the show, but I know a guy who got busted for molesting at least one little boy at the daycare he worked at. Didn't know him particularly well. Just saw him from time to time at Yu-Gi-Oh! Regionals and shit. He was good friends with this creepy juggalo guy and both thought they were hot shit and constantly talking down on people. I never particularly liked either, but the eventual molester was mostly under my radar. Just some jackass I occasionally saw. I hadn't thought of him for years when one day my friend messaged me the news story of his arrest. Apparently the juggalo was defending him until the very end, despite having kids of his own by then. Actually, a friend of mine's roommate ended up being one. He was super normal and kind of good looking. He had a girlfriend as well. The only odd thing about him was that he had inherited a bunch of money from his family, all in cash. Aside from that, he was in his 20s and you'd never think it at all. He was one of the ones that thought he was meeting a 16-year-old girl or something like that. He also wasn't very bright. My mom used to know one of the guys. Said he was always a nice guy and quick with a joke. She said she was not really surprised to see him where he was when the show was on television. Yep, she had a lot of good things to say about Chris Hansen. I didn't know him personally, but he went to the same church as me, when my parents forced me to be religious, and I never knew he existed. He tried to lure an 11-year-old girl from the internet to the local park, pretending to be her age, but that 11-year-old girl was actually a 19-year-old dude, I think that was his age, who had known about him being a creep, and wanted to turn him into police for it. R34 artists. What is the weirdest, most concerning commission you've ever gotten? My girlfriend makes anime plushies like Pokémon for a living by hand, and someone literally asked her to do a Pikachu with a huge penis and a Trico with a hole instead of a tail, and I was as confused as someone can be. She politely turned the request down. Not really an artist, but I occasionally write porn captions and used to do a commissions whenever I needed some extra beer money. Since I used to market myself as being open to all fetishes, I've written a lot of weird stuff. But the weirdest was definitely when someone commissioned a caption about how a female version of Ice King got strapped into some kind of machine that turned her breast milk into ice cream. The man commissioned an image series where a little boy knocks out a squad of female zombies in nurses' uniforms and molests them. Yeah. 2 things. Used to do video work for this sort of thing. I got so many weird-ass requests. I used to keep a file of them. Long descriptions of women swallowing people like a python was one. Another being having someone slowly turn into an item of sentient clothing, usually a bra, panties or shoe. And #X200B. Second thing from a different source. I have a 3D scanner. Someone with a Arabic email was asking me if I could combine scans and do a 3D print at life size. I can in fact do this. He then tells me wants the breasts of Leanne Crow on the body of Piper Perry. And that everything should be as they are now, no rescaling, pretty sure her spine would just snap. I couldn't tell if they were trolling or they actually expected me to be able to book them for this. A friend of mine was doing furry requests to get out into the scene and 2 different people asked him to draw their characters masturbating in quicksand. I had to draw a Charizard, but, to quote a song, she was riding and started farting. I'm not an artist, but there's this story that some really weird guy on DeviantArt pays thousands of dollars to commission art of various characters buying Wonder Bread. Nothing overtly sexual, no weird fetish stuff, just walking through a bread aisle and buying Wonder Bread. Nobody knows if he has a Wonder Bread fetish or if it's some kind of elaborate joke. All we know is that he pays thousands of dollars for these Wonder Bread images. Edit. It's even weirder than I remembered. Apparently he only commissions white, rich, blonde characters buying entire shopping carts full of Wonder Bread. On occasion he'll also commission a white, rich, blonde character cutting down an entire forest. He doesn't respond to DMs, so don't bother trying to ask him. Not the worst but certainly the most off-putting because it came out of nowhere and I was not advertising not safe for work commissions. Guy politely DM'd me after subscribing to my Patreon, which was surprising because I hadn't posted on social media linking to it for months and did not recognize his user. He asked if I would be open to drawing 4 mothers and would provide refs for each. I interpreted the mothers part as being wanting more MILF-styled women and just like an orgy or something. No, he wanted me to draw his friends' mothers as sexy pinups so he can put them on his wall. Then I found out he found me from one of these friends who I was also friends with. So ended up doing a sexy rendition of my friend's Catholic mother. Best pay yet though. Not related, but the topic makes me think of a guy the first met while taking a college sculpture class. I was killing time and taking hours to keep my student loans in deferment while waiting to transfer schools. He was in the class to work more on his 3-dimensional form. He mentions that he is an illustrator and brings in some notebooks one day. All of them were filled with big melon-titted, bubble butt girls in various levels of not safe for work type poses. It was good technique, but all I could think was, what is he going to do with this skill? After reading this post, I'm sure he's doing okay. At first I couldn't think of anything to share here, but reading through some of the stories told here, I was reminded of one instance. I'm a hentai artist. I mostly get commissions for Futa and Monster Girl stuff, which is the sort of thing I like drawing. But one time someone asked me if I could draw a genderbent Robert E. Lee. I declined. So when I was in college myself and a friend had some ongoing Les Miserables fanfiction collaboration stories going on out 3. Nothing sexy posted at all. Welp. I get a PM. My friend did not. I don't know why I specifically got the message, asking to commission a Les Mis writing piece. And at first I consider it until the person starts describing what they want and how they'd like at least 3,000 words of Javert being fucked with a bayonet. They offered me $20 US. I said no. Edit. Geez. Never expected one of my most upvoted Reddit comments to be about Javert gore porn I didn't write. I used to draw R34, but I stopped after a while because it was too much for me, but I got requested by the same guy if I could draw 1. B sounding, 2. Maggot sounding, and 3. Spider sounding. And after that I quit. So this commission wasn't even going to be paid in money, just DeviantArt points. But this guy wanted a GIF animation cute cowboy coyote firing a gun, but he wanted her to have big boobs that would jiggle from the recoil. And then he wanted me to animate another cute canine who was a pop star dancing on stage and shirtless, her tits bouncing all over the place. Like, I'm not opposed to furries, but if you're going to be requesting that, at least pay actual money. Both of these canines still had heavily animal heads, not even hair. And #X200B. There was something that wasn't even a commission because the freak wanted it for free, but he wanted me to draw his OC shitting and pissing. Unless you're paying me over $100, I am not drawing piss and shit. I draw adult furry art for beer money occasionally. The weirdest commission that I've taken was the client's character tied to a chair while wearing a gas mask that was attached to a hose that an anthropomorphic skunk was farting into. I wasn't thrilled painting it and updated my will not draw list afterwards, but $60 is $60. The vast majority of furries tip and are great to work with for commissions. Edit. Not safe for work. Link to image. 3D animator. Weirdest was actually very recently. Someone wanted to commission an animation of that lady Dimitrescu from Resident Evil sitting on, and I kid you not, Pikachu's face while farting. Still not sure if I will take the commission or not. Not an artist, but I'm sure plenty of people are aware of Wonderbread Guy at this point. I'm friendly with a couple artists and I know they've been contacted by the Wonder Bread Guy. For those unaware, there's a infamous commissioner who gets pictures of girls buying whole shopping carts full of bread. It's harmless, just kinda bizarre. Mate, I saw fucking porn for Among Us a few months ago. Each day we go farther from God's light. Not AR-34 artist, but just a general artist. I can tolerate not safe for work as long as it's somewhat normal. But as a Helluva artist, someone fucking asked me to draw porn of Stolas and Octavia. Please don't Google Stovia, and they asked for Stolas to be dead. Rigor mortis. I was asked to draw a comic page, which would have been my first commission of that type, so I was a bit hype about it. 8 panels. The commissioner said he would send me the script. He does. I start reading the script. It's basically pedophilia. All the hype down. I bailed on it, explaining that I do not draw that stuff. Commissioner then asks if I could do a drawing involving fart, scat. Bailed one more time, also politely. Certainly not as wild as some examples I've read in this thread, but considering I rarely get commissions, this was very big for me. I'm interested in experimenting with my drawings, but hard limits are hard limits, which meant I let go a considerable commission payment.